Hey, this is Jack Kelly with the WeCruitr podcast, and today I'd like to bring you something a little different. This topic might be a little politically incorrect, but the goal, the mission for what we're doing here with this podcast series is to bring to your attention things that are really happening out there in the real world. You know, not this soft, fluffy, everything is great. You know, you're going to interview, you're going to get this fantastic job. You go get them. You hear that we have full employment, the best job market in forever? Lowest unemployment. The stock market is hitting record highs. So when you're going to look for a job, it makes it sound like, oh, this is fantastic. I'm going to go out there, I'm going to find the best job, I'm going to make a lot of money, and my life is going to be awesome. Unfortunately, that's not the case for everybody. And, I don't mean to be a downer when I'm saying this, but I just really want to be kind of, transparent and honest, like what we're seeing in the market. Now, if you happen to be, let's say, an engineer, IT guru out in Silicon Valley, yeah, it's going to be a blazing hot, job market. You're going to be called by tons of recruiters and tons of HR people trying to lure you in. But if you're in other areas, not so much. So when you read about how, blazing hot it is, yeah, in some areas, but not everywhere. But there is one particular area that, or I should say like one group of people that is going to have and is having a really difficult time. If you're really kind of even in the late 30s and up, which isn't old at all, I don't think, because I'm kind of past that, is that there's definitely, in my opinion, in my experience, what I'm seeing is there seems to be a fair amount of ageism out there. Now, to be fair, when I say ageism, I don't really think that it's somebody as a hiring manager or an HR looks at a candidate and says, oh my God, they're ancient. We don't want this person here. Boy, they don't fit in with the culture. We're not going to look at the resume. We're not going to invite them in. Just forget about it. I think what ends up happening is it's a combination of being at a certain age and earning a certain amount of money. So when let's take the area that I specialize, which is Wall Street, banking, finance, that space. If you're let's say high 30s, 40s, 45, 50, 55, and let's say you're earning, $150, $250, $300,000, what ends up happening, companies say, do we want to hire Jack Kelly at this amount where maybe, just maybe, we can get somebody way cheaper somewhere else? And the trends that are happening, and this is mirrored with other sectors as well. So the trends are nearshoring and offshoring jobs. So let's say within the banking, you see places like, it used to be New York was the hub. Then they moved to Jersey City. Then they moved to Jacksonville, Florida, Salt Lake City, Dallas, Poland, India, you name it, because it's way cheaper there for real estate and to hire people. So they're going to look at a candidate, in this market and say, why are we going to give this person the job, when it's going to cost so much? Let's bring it somewhere else. Now, it wouldn't be bad if it was just one company that did it. But unfortunately, what's happening, imagine this, all the companies within your area are doing the same thing, then where do you go? What do you do? And I see this trend, which is frightening, because you have a person who goes into the market and they think, okay, I worked hard in high school, in college, maybe I have an advanced degree, I kept going up the corporate ladder, I have a lot of references, people like me, I do a great job, and now for whatever reason, maybe they're downsized or they're pushed out or feel they have to leave, and they think, okay, I'm going to be appreciated. But they go out there and nothing. So they send resumes, don't hear back. Fill out applications, nothing. Maybe they get a call, then they get ghosted. And for these people, it's devastating, because imagine this, you have a mortgage, you have maybe kids going to college, you're saving, so you have the tuition costs, you're saving for your own retirement, and now, after 10, 15, 20 years of working, you feel no one has any interest in you. You're non-existent, you're not a person, and it's brutal. And this is not just in my experience talking with people. If you look at some recent issues, Verizon had this voluntary separation program where thousands were let go or pushed out, and the overwhelming amount of people were over a certain age. IBM just laid off fairly recently, thousands of people, coincidentally, all of a certain age. Facebook, they would put running ads that if you were over a certain age, you would not see those ads because they're able to target. And what do they target? More younger people. Google just settled a lawsuit that they didn't hire or give a chance to people of a certain age. So this is not just conjecture. This is out there. And I'm going to put in links to articles with this podcast so that you can see and read for yourself that this is going on. It also seems a little counterintuitive because you would think that if someone came up to your driveway and said, hey, Jack, here's this Rolls Royce, and then you could buy it for the same price of a Honda. You would say, presuming that, the person, they're legit and they're not trying to take advantage of course they do it. But if you have a person with, 20 years of experience and they come to the table for a job and they could really help out and contribute, and they're saying, hey, I was making 150, but I'll take 100 because I want the job, you would think HR people and hiring managers would take them up in a minute. But that doesn't happen either. They're thanks, but no thanks. And again, it's this weird, fuzzy thing. So I'm not entirely sure it's just because of the age, but also I think what happens is that a hiring manager feels, hey, this person has a certain amount of years experience, more than I do. And if I bring them in, even if I bring them in at a lower rate, what's going to happen? Is this person going to go after my job? When there's a meeting taking place, are all the heads going to turn to that person and not me? Is my boss going to one day say, hey, why do I need, me, the hire manager, when I have this other person who's, cheaper than you and they're better? So what does that mean for my job? Or they'll wonder, hey, the first good offer that comes, they're going to leave. So it becomes really this really squishy issue where maybe it's not exactly the age, but it's that age plus the compensation plus the threat that it represents, that when you put all those together, it just makes a toxic mess for these people to get a job. So it's really not fun to talk about because I feel for these people. And by writing, I write for our blog, I'm a senior contributor for Forbes, and whenever I write pieces like this, I'm inundated with phone calls, with emails, with LinkedIn notes, through Twitter, and it's same thing all over the place in every different industry. I would love to say I have an answer to this issue, to say, hey, here's what we can do. But right now, I think the best way I want to help out is by bringing this out, to the public and making people informed about it. And then also for people who are going through this themselves to know that they're not alone. This is happening because when I speak one-on-one to folks who are going through it, they really feel a sense of relief because they're thinking, hey, it's just me. Given the economy that we're in, where it's, supposedly really hot, everything is jumping, the stock market is great, high employment, low unemployment, then they wonder, wait, if I'm not getting picked for something, it must be me. And our culture is such that we really celebrate the successes. We all want to talk about how awesome we are, how great we are. You know that. Wherever you are, you hear someone, they're going to brag. How you doing? Oh, I'm awesome. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. No one wants to say, oh, I'm not getting called for interviews. Oh, I'm not even getting an interview. And I'm in between jobs. So what happens, these people pull back because they think it's them. And then they start worrying that their family and friends, you think, what kind of loser are they? Why it's such a great job market? So a big part of what I want to do too is just bring it out that it's not just you. This is happening across the board. This is happening. I don't know the numbers. I should, somehow could find that out. But I would imagine thousands of people in the same boat. And they keep it to themselves because they're kind of embarrassed to, to say, in a great market, I'm not invited to the party. So if anything, if it makes you feel better, that it's not just you. This is just a trend. And I'd even mention on top of nearshoring jobs, offshoring jobs, trying to keep costs down, you have technology where, when implemented, is really wiping out tons of different areas. So people who had these great positions, due to technology and due to the other trends, they might not even have those roles anymore. So even if they wanted to hire the person, they're not available. What I would suggest, though, so the first thing is at least to know that this is happening. This is out there. So if you're going through this, to know you're not alone. You're not. This is unfortunately not unique, and many people are also suffering from the same problem. But the thing to do is, number one, you can't give up hope. You just can't throw up your hands and say, screw it, I give up, because that's not an answer. The second thing is to do is kind of recognize that this is going on. So you have to have very thick skin. You can't take it personally, and you have to keep trying, because eventually there will be somebody who could give you the chance. It might take a while, or you might luck out. In my years of recruiting, sometimes it's the craziest thing. You could be in the right place at the right time and get a job right away, and you're like, my God, this was the easiest thing in the world. Or it could take a long time, knock your head against the wall, nothing happens. So the same thing here. You want to just keep plugging away. You don't want to give up. You still want to stay strong. You want to be confident in yourself. The worst thing to do is that, you let this, get to you. So then it compounds it, because sometimes people go for an interview and they feel defeated going into the interview. And when they feel defeated going to the interview, the hiring managers, the HR people, they pick up on that vibe. They sense it, and then they don't want to hire you. Now, that has nothing to do with the age at this point. This is more of they feel, this person doesn't. They don't have that spark. They don't have that drive. They don't have that motivation. So thanks, but no thanks. So it becomes a slippery slope. So first, you're not getting as many opportunities. You feel you're going to have to give up on the compensation you had before. And now you're going in, and it's hard to be confident. Because, let's be honest, we're all human. It's hard to go there when you feel beaten up to come in and be, yes, here I am. Hire me. I'm great. I'm the best. It's hard to do that when you're getting your ass kicked all the time and you're feeling you're just being looked over. But you have to find a way. Somehow you have to practice. You have to keep practicing your elevator pitch. You have to be confident. You have to be strong. You have to keep tapping into your network, sending out resumes, interviewing. And it won't be easy, but it's possible, because I do see people will get the jobs. It takes a long time, unfortunately, but I do see people that land. A couple of other things you may do is, and this is not easy either. You might have to reinvent yourself. Maybe you have to find a way to say, all right, I did X for so many years, and maybe those jobs for me and the money I was earning is just not going to work, and they're not taking me, even if I take a pay cut, or I come in at a low level. So I have to find something else I could do to reinvent myself and try to go in a different direction. I know that's easier said than done, but that's something that maybe is worthwhile taking a look into. Another thing is to kind of, and this is come across like blaming the victim, and I'm not trying to do that. But another thing to do is say, okay, how can I make sure I come across as somebody who is fresh, current, up to speed with everything, knows the newest technology, knows what's going on. Because sometimes we all get in our own little bubble and forget about what's going on in the rest of the world. What kind of glasses are you wearing? Are they stylish? Are they out of style? What kind of tie? Is it a tie that you have for the last 20 years? What type of haircut? And I know it sounds so superficial. I get it. And it sounds, so crass. But this is how it is. And this, again, is probably what I want to do with the podcast, is to give a little reality, from a person who's been a recruiter for 20 years and placed thousands of people and has seen it. So by pretending it doesn't exist, I'm not going to help anybody. If I could say, nah, this isn't happening, don't worry, everything is great job market, you go out there, I'm just going to be hurting you. So I think you have to understand going in with your eyes open that this is something you're going to deal with. So I know this is kind of a tough, topic to cover, but I hope, just by bringing it up, that there is this intersection between being of a certain age and at a certain income where it does become much harder to get another comparable job. Not impossible, but much harder. So when that happens to you, first of all, don't take it personally. Don't think it's just you. Unfortunately, this is a trend, but sometimes trends change. And then please do not give up, throw up your hands in despair. Do everything in your power to stay motivated, to stay driven, to stay the course, not let it get to you, and just keep trying, sending out resumes, calling people, networking, and doing what it takes, because eventually you'll find something. And if you can't find something exactly, find something just to stay in the game, or, hey, maybe find a way to say that this possibly happened for a reason, and maybe you always had a passion that you wanted to do something and put it off, and this is the time to do it. So I hope this gives some color. So whether you're in human resources to maybe have a little, empathy, and I know you folks do for sure, but maybe a little extra special empathy to know that there are a lot of people who are hurting out there, and this class of people, there's no representation really for them, and to give them a shot. If you're a hiring manager, the same thing, to understand, well, you know what, maybe let me give this person a little bit more of my time, because at the end of the day, when you think about it, I think we could agree there's all types of prejudices and discrimination across all different types of people, color, size, weight, this, that, the other thing. But the one thing that this has in common, and maybe this is why we don't want to talk about it, because we all are going to get old. We're all going to be there. That's the one thing. I'm not going to end up being, a certain race, religion, this or that, whatever. I'm who I am, but I am going to get old. And we all share that. And that could be maybe a reason why people don't want to confront it, because they don't want to know that that's going to happen to them. So hopefully this opened your eyes a little bit to something that's going on. Hopefully people smarter than myself and more knowledgeable than myself could help start doing things about it to make it a better situation. But at the very least, I think for people to know what's happening makes you feel a little better that you know it, and then by others who really didn't realize this is going on, to be a little bit more sensitive and helpful for the folks who need the help. So thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. And as always, we'll put up all our contact information here. So if you'd like to call, share your stories, we could be a soundboard. If you have questions to ask, we'd be glad to help. If we could point you to direct you to good recruiters who could help you with a search, we'll be glad to do it. And then we also put in about a handful of different articles so you can read up about it if you like. So it's Jack Kelly from the WeCruitr podcast. Thank you so much for listening.